Welcome to the Unravel Podcast. I'm Jodesh, CEO and founder of People360, where we bridge world-class healthcare talent into Singapore front lines. This episode is one that you can't afford to miss. As Singapore shines a spotlight on its workforce this May, we are diving straight into the heart of what keeps our healthcare system strong. It's people. And who better to join us rather than Brother Steven Goh, Executive Secretary of the Healthcare Services Union, HSEU, an affiliate of National Trade Union Congress, commonly known to us as NTUC. He's here to unpack the union's powerful role and to spotlight the real initiatives making a difference for our healthcare heroes on the ground. Trust me, you will walk away informed, inspired and fired up. Welcome, Steven.
Thank you so much, Jodesh.
Yeah. How's everything with you? It's been a while.
Yes, very good. Yeah. Missed the coffee with you.
So, Steven, thank you for joining us today. I think today's episode, we really want to unravel the union's involvement in the healthcare sector. HSEU has been very active, and I think that's how I kind of found out about HSEU through your social posts and through you reaching out to me. I think over this episode, we also want to uncover or debunk certain myths around unions, right? I think I was very scared when you first approached me. I was like, are you going to come and do some collective bargaining with my company? What is my role in the union? And I think today's episode will help shed some light on this.
Yeah, happy to.
Steven, I was looking through your profile yesterday, when I was just reading up about your career's span. You spent 22 years in NTUC.
That's right.
How did it go? Tell us more. How did you start this journey with NTUC and what inspired you to be a union representative rather than go into banking or go into finance or take another trade?
Well, actually, I must describe myself as a very accidental industrial relations officer. So it never occurs to me that I will join NTUC. Because since young, I was always surrounded by engineers. So my uncle is an engineer, my brother is an engineer, my cousin is an engineer. So from young, I very determined that I want to become a structural engineer. So I studied hard and eventually landed a job in an architect firm, where I spent a good 10 years. So during the 10 years itself, then of course I came across some episodes as well. That left me thinking that it's really, while you have all your plans that you want to do structural engineer as your profession, and the one up there also has plans for you. Yeah. So within the decade itself, I actually came across some colleagues that were terminated quite suddenly. And at that point of time, I didn't know too much about a NTUC. What does NTUC do other than maybe fair price, income as an insurance? So I was quite helpless in extending my assistance to them other than watching them go. And some of them are quite close to me because I actually went down to their house to Makan and also got to know their family as well. So that was the time when I actually got to meet up with one of my friends that happens to be working in NTUC. So he said, "Hey, Steven, you want to join us?" So I was asking for some business development positions, and he said, "Yeah, NTUC Link is hiring. Why don't you come and join us?" So I passed him my resume, and then he didn't drop into that cooperative, but instead he actually dropped it into the NTUC main administration and research unit itself. Yeah, and next minute I got called up for interview, and I say, "Wow, wonderful, man!" Yeah. So, went through 3 rounds of interview and the rest is history. So, got myself into NTUC. First 6 months wasn't easy because as a structural engineer, the only person I argue with is just the architect, right? Most of the time. Because once the architectural plan comes out, I have to put up all my structural plans and all that. And sometimes if I put a column right there, then the architect won't be too happy as well. So that's when, so it's very empowered. You do things pretty much on your own, other than the construction team itself. So when you come over to the union, there are many different stakeholders that you report to as well. So you have the union leaders, you have the staff hierarchy, and then you also have the members that you have to deal with, the members next of kin that you deal with as well. So many different stakeholders and of course the management partners and all this. So the first 6 months were really an eye-opener for me. But of course, having said that, these are things that I pick up rather fast. But the satisfaction is something that also keeps me going as well. I remember I was at one of the manufacturing plant doing recruitment. Manufacturing plant runs 24 hours, right? So I remember it was past midnight. I was doing recruitment over there, and I remember there was this very kind lady. As I was busy filling up the membership form, there was this lady. They just walked to my table and just leave a Kit Kat on the table.
Take a break.
Then she went off. I didn't even know her. I was really, but I was very touched because at the corner of my eyes, like, wow, someone actually see me doing work past midnight, and then she's showing her appreciation to me. I was really taken aback, but very thankful. These are some of the small things that keeps me going. And before you know it, brother, I'm already 22 years in the job.
Correct.
And every day it is still giving me the kind of satisfaction in every day that I'm doing it as well. Yeah.
In these 22 years that you were working in the union, I understand now that you are with the Health Sciences Union. Like, were you representing other sectors before that, before coming into HSEU?
Yes. So I started off with the manufacturing union. And then the good thing about this job is that you get to be rotated around to different sectors, because in the entire Singapore there are 59 unions, 7 associations that you can actually get deployed to as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So as we get deployed to the different sectors, that's when you learn about the dynamics of that sector itself, and the profile of the workers sometimes can vary quite differently as well. So 3 years ago, when they asked me to come over to the healthcare, I know nothing about the healthcare. So again, the first few months was really just to pick up the acronyms that was being frequently used, and I always carry this notebook and copying down. But thank God, three years down the road, healthcare is really a very exciting sector to be in right now, because it's undergoing so much transformation. And I was just looking at the minister podcast or social media itself. They was mentioning that the healthcare sector is now, in terms of the expenditure, is just below the defense.
Correct.
Yeah, and by the year 2030, if I remember correctly, we are going to hit 30 billion.
Correct, and then we will be the highest sector, right, in terms of GDP spending.
Yeah, it's crazy how much we have to put in over the last few years. Yeah.
In comparison to your experience in manufacturing and whatnot, and now coming into HSEU, what is special about HSEU in comparison to other unions or other subsets?
The first thing that really amazes me is the profile of the members, the profile of the executive committee. The healthcare workers are a very different group of people. I think they don't just see them joining a job. They see them doing something very purposeful, and the very fundamental reason why they become a healthcare worker is something that's very purposeful, and so when they join, they don't see it as a job, but rather it's something that they're passionate about as well. So nurses, allied health professionals, whatever they do, you can see the passions that they carry with them. Not just in their job, but maybe in the event that they organize and so on and so forth. You can see that the passion that they bring about in everything that they do. Yeah,
correct. Because it's a calling, right?
It's a calling.
Like, hey, the manufacturing sector is a calling for me to operate machineries, or is a calling for me to produce goods. This is more of a service calling.
That's
and
right.
I think I saw that passion as collectively as a sector, and also with the union during your D&D event that I attended.
Glad that you joined us.
Like all of y'all were dancing in the stage, and it was nice to see a collective effort of within the whole community celebrating HSEU's work, right? I think it was amazing.
And not to mention, there are a lot of Mariah Careys in the
correct
workforce. Never lack of talents.
And you are a good dancer yourself.
No. That was just...
Okay. So, maybe Steven, tell me what's a typical day for you as an executive secretary of HSEU. Or is there something even called a typical day for you?
Typical. Every day is different. So over the years, especially since I'm in this job for the last 22 years, I can really witness the evolution of the unions. The union has also evolved over the many years as well. So in the past, we focused a lot on collective bargaining. But as we move towards where we are today, I think there's a lot of emphasis not just on collective bargaining per se, but also in other areas like training and working alongside the companies to transform their businesses as well. So I give you an example is my Secretary General is really amazing. He's the one that lobbied the government for a sum of money of about in the tune of $100 million. So with the $100 million, then we are able to then reach out to all these companies and say, hey, look, why don't you partner the unions and NTUC and see how you can make use of these resources to actually transform your business. So the whole idea is really through this company training committee grant, you're able to expand the cake. So as you expand the cake and the pie, then more can be redistributed back to the workers, so that as you transform your business and you pick it up as well, make sure you don't leave the workers behind. So with this, I think we have been very successful over the last 2 years, and we have exhausted that 100 million 1 year in advance.
Oh, wow.
But the good news is that our Secretary General has again reached out to the government, and this time around we don't just take 100 million, we got double of it as well. So at this year budget, the government has kindly given NTUC another 200 million as
200
well.
million.
Yeah, so with this, I think we can really do a lot more. So particularly for the healthcare sector, we are also, other than reaching out to the restructured hospitals, we are hoping to also making sure that the private sector of the healthcare can also take advantage of this and see how it can actually transform your businesses as well.
Is there a cap to a certain organization of how much can they claim from this grant in terms of their transformational plans to enhance their business and capabilities?
Certainly. So for every unique entity number, you can actually tap up to $1 million in CAPEX or even the first year OPEX. Yeah.
Could you give
or
us
even consultancy as well.
Could you give us a live example of like a transformational plan a company undertook and how that related to better worker outcomes?
Yeah, sure. Maybe I give you 2 examples. One example is from the public healthcare, and the another example is from the private as well. So I approached Ng Teng Fong, chief nurse at that point of time, and we were walking around Ng Teng Fong, and then we actually saw for our own eyes that at their operating theatre, the pain point for the nurses is that some of the processes are still pretty manual, especially when it comes to the management of the non-stock inventory items in the operating theatre itself. So that's when we saw that it's still done very manually using a ruler and an exercise book, and the person that is managing the inventory management system are the nurses. Okay. And when nurses apply for the job, they want to do a lot more patient fronting. But unfortunately, they are caught up with this management of the inventory management system. So that's when we actually discuss with the nursing team and say, look, is there something that we can do so you can elevate this part of the job away, right? So you can actually go back to do what you are subscribed to in providing a better patient care as well. So what we did then is this is a very interesting project because it's really grounds up, right? And the nurses say, yes, let's do this with the support of the management as well. So, and actually, the technology that they adopted is not really a cutting-edge technology, right? So all we did is we actually created a application module at the front end that is able to link back to the back-end warehouse management system. Okay. Then together it'll be integrated with the patient records and all that as well. And that's what we did. And eventually, when everything got linked up, we even introduce some of the emerging jobs that comes along with it as well, to see that maybe for the maintenance of this whole system, subsequently can we actually get the the operating theatre technicians to do it as well, in terms of the maintenance.
Okay, so it's job redesign, taking
Yeah,
away
so a
the
little bit of job
administrative work
redesign.
from the nurses so that they can
That's
focus
right.
more on clinical, and
That's
then
right.
shifting this work to the appropriate work group to
That's
handle
right.
the stuff.
That's right. So this is one successful story that we did it with Ng Teng Fong. And the other story, in the same hospital as well, it was the Vital Scout projects as well. So for the Vital Scout projects, I used to stay in the hospital. Sometimes you're hospitalized, right? And every now and then, the nurse will, sometimes in the middle of the night, will have to wake you up and say, "Sorry, sir, I have to take your vital signs. I have to take your temperature and all that as well." Then after that, I can't get back to sleep.
Correct.
Yeah. So what happened is that now, with the advancement of the technology, like wearables, actually by putting on the wearables, it will auto transmit all these, your vital signs wirelessly to the backend system. And the good thing is that you can also put in some of the thresholds that's required for that particular patient as well. And if it exceeds that threshold, then the system will automatically then trigger alerts directly to the doctors, directly to the nurses, and so on and so forth as well. So attention can then be to the patient bedside to see how he can actually react to it as well. Yeah, so that is another very good project. You don't have to disturb the patient when he or she is sleeping as well.
Correct. So this real-time monitoring system.
Real-time monitoring system as well.
And now that Ng Teng Fong has adopted this, is it now across all the government hospitals has adopted it, or is it just particularly?
Oh, that's a very good question. So as I move around the different hospitals, then I realized that actually the pain points are sama-sama. It's quite similar as well. So when we actually brought our Secretary General down together with the then Prime Minister, the first thing they told me is that please replicate good solutions across the cluster so that the other hospitals can benefit as well. And that's exactly what we did. So after the successful implementations from Ng Teng Fong, and the good thing is that Ng Teng Fong is never shy away from sharing their good solutions. So I remember there was one session, the chief nurse even personally shared with participants from different hospitals across the 3 clusters. Now we are making some headways into the other hospitals, and they are even doing on the larger scale, benefiting not just the operating theatre but to other departments as well. So the scale has gone up, and I think is solving that similar pain point as well.
Correct, and it's also economies of scale in terms of cost spending and technology, because
That's right.
now you got more users, price comes down, implementation is also much
That's
faster
right.
from the first project, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So hopefully the number of nurses, the number of healthcare workers that benefit will actually get more and more as we implement more and more of such solutions as well. Yeah, and just now I was talking about the private sector as well, right? There was also another. So we don't just put resources to big restructured hospitals as well. So 3 years ago, as I came into HSEU, there was also a direction for us to move into the private sector, and that's when we actually also benefit some of the small medium enterprises as well. So there was this one particular optometrist that we work with as well. And he was sharing with me his pain point. His pain point is that every time when a customer walks in, and if he need to do a thorough eye check, he has to dilate the pupil. And once you dilate the pupil, then the amount of light entering your eyes becomes more, and sometimes can be very uncomfortable to the customers. So he was telling me, "Hey, Steven, actually I have this machine that can actually take a wide angle kind of images without having to dilate the eyes. But he said that this is very costly. How can you help me?" Yeah, so that's when I actually approached to him about the company training committee grant and say, why don't you tap onto this? But again, the amount of grant actually comes from the unions, NTUC, then to expect some workers' outcome as well. So for this particular grant, there are 3 outcomes that the NTUC and HSEU is looking at, which is the direct wage increase, or have the skill allowances for your workers that operate that particular machine, or the last one is a career development plan. So in that particular case, I think he opted to give the workers some 5% kind of direct wage increase.
Is there a minimum set number that you need to achieve in
No,
terms
it
of direct
all
wage
depends
increase?
on that circumstances and how comfortable the employer is willing to give. But I think 5% seems to be the common number that I see in many of the applications as well. Some we even went as high, but it all depends. But average out, I see hovering around 4 to 4.5% onwards.
Correct. So it's
in that
quite
sense, yeah.
aligned to your annual wage increment also, because
That's
as
right.
long as the company is making profits, I think you could factor in that 4 to 5% salary cost.
Of course, if the company can actually give above whatever there is the annual wage increment, then I think the workers will benefit. So I see this as how the union work has evolved as well. So rather than every time sitting across the table asking, now we have done Santa Claus. So now we give the resources to the companies in the hope that as you transform and do well, then you bring the workers along in terms of giving them a direct wage increase or a skill allowance or a better career plan in that sense.
So you're not only an executive secretary, you're also a business consultant.
Everything rolled into one. So every other day, so you ask me what is in my typical day, a lot of selling of the grants, a lot of selling of the training agenda. So as I said, collective bargaining is just one aspect of my work, but many other things. Now, training is huge because we want to make sure that the workers continue to stay relevant as the whole economy, as the whole industry transforms as well. So I think that's very critical.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think we got a clear idea of the CTC grant. The unions are supporting businesses to transform their businesses to achieve productive outcomes through efficient and effective implementations.
That's right.
These productive outcomes will relate to better operations, better profitability, and this should be passed down to the workers in terms of wage increase.
Or the other two outcomes.
Or the other two outcomes.
Yes.
Okay. So very good. I think for those who are not tapping onto the CTC grant, please reach out to Steven. He is able to consult, help you, bring in good advisors to come in and relook at your business processes.
Yeah, and I don't do this alone. I actually did it with a team as well, which we call them the Industrial Transformation and Training Officers as well. In short, we call them ITOs.
ITOs.
And they are actually professionals, very highly skilled and well-trained by A-stars. So the other resources that we, other than the grant that we dish out to the companies, are what we call the operations technology road mapping. This is a facilitation that allows you, the company, to actually chart out the near, medium, and the longer term kind of things that they want to achieve. So as you go through this very robust facilitation itself, it will actually help the companies to crystallize what are some of their plans that they want to do. So once you have mapped out the entire plans that you want to do, then you might want to have it prioritization as well.
Correct.
And if you have one or two that you want to tap onto the grant, and that's when you can then work out with NTUC and HSEU to see, hey, these are some projects in my entire roadmap that I want to tap onto the CTC grant. So you can see that all these resources comes together to help the company.
And I think that's what's unique in this Singapore business environment, that government plays a big part, to help companies. For example, like now they're going through this whole AI digital transformation phase, right? And without government spur and support, many businesses will be lagging behind to make that leap of faith. Clearly, because these initiatives are not cheap, right? And I think like government has done like a slew of initiatives from when I started business in 2014, there was something called the PSG, right? And that helped me with a lot of startup costs at that point of time. And then there were EDG grants, CTC grants, and I think that's what's unique about Singapore. It's very business friendly. It helps businesses or to spur on, right?
Yeah. Business friendly as well as worker friendly as well.
Correct.
So it's not easy to achieve that.
Achieve both outcomes.
Both outcomes, yes.
So just to go a little bit more into HSEU, their mission, their impact. So HSEU represents a broad spectrum of healthcare workers, not only nurses, you got your allied health, your medical, your ancillary and support staff. Can you share how the union works to improve the working conditions for these employees, and how can HSEU drive overall job satisfaction?
Sure. If I may take your question and frame it under 3 Ws. The first W being wages, second W being work prospects, and the last W being welfare. So coming to the first W, the wages itself. So under wages itself, there are many things that we can do. So for example, are the nurses, the healthcare workers paid competitively? So every now and then we will review together with the ministry to see benchmark against international, because the healthcare workers are actually under tremendous pressure. It's international competition, right? So are they benchmark, their wages benchmark competitively? So that's something that we are always looking at. So I'll give you an example. This year there was a good news, right? Because the entire healthcare workers will actually get another boost, salary revision upwards as well. And this time round, the non-nurses are getting a boost slightly higher than that of the nurse. And then now both the nurses and the non-nurses enjoy an increment in terms of their salary revision upwards. So this was just announced in January, and the union then get into the works together with the 3 clusters. And with the successful conclusion of our collective agreement, which we will hear very soon, there's a whole slew of good benefits, and salary adjustment is one. The salary range are also moved up as well, so that you don't get maxed out. There'll be several increments before you max out again. Because if you max out, you'll get 0 increment every year.
Correct, your ceilings, right?
Yeah, ceiling as well. So wages, other than the salary revision, we have the collective agreement, as I mentioned as well. We are constantly looking into making sure that we are staying competitive. So that's a very important component. Talking about the collective agreement, this year we have managed to make some really good enhancements. So just give you an example, other than the salary adjustment and the range up, we also managed to make quite a big breakthrough in terms of the medical benefits. Yeah. So in terms of the entitlement, it has went up. In terms of the dental benefit, it has gone up as well. And in terms of the other benefits like the bed charges, the 10% waiver 10% has also been waived as well. And others as well, even medically bought out, we have negotiated for some immediate assistance should any of the members fall into that circumstances as well, and so on and so forth as well. And the collective agreement is due for negotiations every 2 to 3 years. So we will never stop.
So it never stays stagnant.
Stays stagnant as well. And it's just one part of under the wages as well. How about the work prospects? Work prospect is what I just described with regards to the company training committee, making sure that we work with them, tapping into the resources that NTUC and HSEU provides to transform the businesses, so that the work prospects of the workers can be better as well. Another example under the work prospects is what we have embarked upon with the ministry together with the 3 clusters, is to really look into the sector and see what are some of the jobs that require some job redesign. So a very good example would be the healthcare attendant, as well as that of the patient service associate. So in the past, the patient service associate 100% of the time are just doing administrative work. But with this job redesign, some of the patient service associate, if they are game to it, they can actually take up some of the clinical skills as well. So I remember I was visiting Tan Tock Seng, and I came across this patient service associate. I call him the 3-star general, because he can do uroflowmetry. He can also do verification of the medication that is to be dished out to the patients. He can also do financial counseling as well, on top of his patient service associate works as well. So for that, I think he should be rewarded for doing additional as well. And it's good for him, because then he can have a better career progression. We break that ceiling in the job redesign discussion as well, so that for those people that is willing to take up a hybrid job roles, then they can actually look forward to a better career progression as well, as compared to those that I feel I just want to do what status quo as well. Yeah, so this is another example that what we have done. Of course, we give them training as well in that process. Yeah, and we can curate courses that is contextualized for their needs as well. And then coming to the last W, the welfare. Welfare is very critical as well, because welfare, so it hurts me when I first joined the sector to hear that many of the nurses actually kind of like embrace harassment, abuse on a daily basis as part of their job. It should never be the case, right?
Correct.
When you go to work, you should never be abused by anybody. Yeah, so when they mention that it's a common thing that they actually experiences every day, it kind of like wow, maybe we need to do something. And the good thing is that HSEU has always been championing about this. Even before I joined HSEU, the union has been very active in championing and lobbying for something needs to be done. And I think they started off with the previous minister, and they continue to do it with the current minister. And the good thing again is that the minister listens, and then we set up a tripartite work group on the prevention of the abuse and harassment of healthcare workers. And very good progress. To cut the long story short, they have come out with a framework, a 3P framework, as well as a very detailed implementation guide for that. And I think that's very important, because whether it's at one cluster or the other two clusters, the kind of treatment must be consistent.
Correct.
And in the framework and the implementation guide, zero tolerance to any form of abuse and harassment. So the first thing that we did is actually to define exactly what constitutes abuse, exactly what constitutes harassment, so that the understanding across all three clusters is consistent. And then from there, we break down, we deep dive into the kind of the details that is required to ensure that the treatment is the measures that's being put in place is consistent. So, for instance, at what point does the healthcare workers actually escalate this, and what is the escalation process? What is the severity? And then how do you actually close the thing as well? Because if the healthcare workers is very active in reporting, but there's no closure to it, then after a while people will say, hey, then I report for what?
Correct.
So I think that's very important. So I think as you go through the tripartite work group, the kind of robustness that's being built into the system, setting up of the office, the staff protection office to look after the well-being of the workers are very important as well. Yeah.
So previously in the past, again, as you mentioned, like, it was a norm, right? Being harassed, being abused by whether it's patients or in the hospital environment. Nurses used to suck it up and say, hey, you know what, bo pian, this is part of my job, right? And since the implementation of this tripartite work group,
yes,
in terms of data, are nurses now reporting? Has there been an increase of cases lodged now of this? Or?
Yes, yes. The awareness and the publicity certainly has created the number of reporting as well. So reporting numbers has gone up. Yeah. So I think it's good. It's a good sign. But just have to be mindful that the numbers go up doesn't mean that the abusers has gone up.
Correct.
So I think we just have to take it in the light that because there have been a lot more promotion. So just now one of the P's I talk about under the framework is actually promotion. Yeah. So greater awareness.
Correct. I saw a very powerful ad on healthcare abuse. I think it was airing on all mainstream medias.
That's right.
And it was so powerful, right? Because I think at the end of the day, we are humans. I think patients, family members, sometimes they don't get the answers, and then they ill-treat nurses, they ill-treat doctors.
That's right.
But if they sit back and actually realize, like, hey, you know, in a point of time, I mean, we can't tolerate this behavior, but I think we can understand what drove them to behave like that.
That's right.
Right, and I think it's a good reflection, that advertisement, to make you realize that, hey, like, be patient, right? Because treat people like how you want to be treated at the end of the day. It's that golden rule, right?
Yeah. And the good thing is that from the healthcare sector, we also learn from other sectors as well. So we learn from the security sectors, we learn from the transport sectors as well. And there was, I remember there was this sharing by my colleague from the National Transport Workers Union. So he was telling me that at the bus itself, can you imagine how many cameras are on the bus? There are actually more than 10. So inside and outside the bus as well.
Correct.
So if any of the bus captains were to be harassed, there's one button that allows them to press, which then links them back to the command center. And there will be recordings, not just visual, but also audio as well. So that's why all this can be then produced as evidences of the harassment. But unfortunately, for the healthcare sector,
You can't have cameras in the
you
wards.
can't have camera in the walls. You can't have body-worn cameras on the nurse. So sometimes I think there's a need for us to then do a little bit more for the healthcare sectors to make sure that the next of kin, the patients, are aware that you can be disbarred from treatments if you are aggressively abusing a healthcare workers. You can be issued warning letters, if your behavior is deemed to be abusive and so on and so forth.
Correct.
As well. Yeah.
So I think that's a societal challenge, right? And I think that is one of the reasons why, or was one of the reasons why people were leaving the profession, because the greater appreciation from society of that profession, right? Typically in a very Asian context, doctors get a lot of limelight. Nurses, they see them as the ones who clean up after, right? And I think those perceptions need to change, because actually nurses are the front lines. They are the one providing that direct care. They are the one giving the 80% to that patient, right? Doctors come in, yes, it's an important part to play, but the direct interventions are always the nurses, the front lines.
Correct.
So I think again, society has to change their view, and I believe, for example, certain countries like Australia, right, they really glorify the nursing profession, right? They are seen as equal to an allied health. They are seen as equal to the doctors, right?
Yes.
And I hope, right, again, being in the healthcare recruitment space, I hope that there's this paradigm shift coming to Singapore sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from the union perspective, you're absolutely right. So we are trying to, in one of the clusters, they actually did this gross, get rid of stupid stuff. Stuff as in STUFF, not STAFF. So that as you get rid of all this, other stuff as well, then the nurses can then productively do what they are supposed to do as well. So that's also aligned with what union is doing as well, so that the nurses can continue to be moving up the value chain in assisting the doctors, and the doctors can then again move up their own value chain to do even bigger things as well. Yeah.
Correct.
So
It's
every
expansion of
yeah.
roles.
So if you start link up with all these examples that I just gave, just now I gave an example of a patient service associate doing a little bit of clinical as well. So you can see that the shift upwards the effect that it bring about, the outcome they bring about is tremendous. Yeah, where everybody is doing a higher value job as well.
Correct, and that relates to job satisfaction.
Correct. Then who does the mundane and boring jobs? We leverage on technology where possible.
Correct, and robotics in the
robotics
hospital.
or simple automation, for example, in getting rid of all these manual processes.
Correct.
Yeah, and also this will also ensure that your jobs never get redundant, right? I mean, at the rate that the technology advancement is going, what makes you think that the administrative job will always be there? So it's also making sure that we are able to see the future, and making sure that we are always preemptive
and
in
staying
our efforts
relevant,
and continue to stay relevant and doing higher value jobs.
Correct. So to recap, is that 3W? It's around that 3 Ws.
Yes, that's right.
Steven, these 3 Ws are great, and there's so much of great things that are happening in each pillar of these Ws. But these 3 Ws, basically these collective agreements, collective bargaining, collective benefits, are mostly around the government, because you said among the 3 clusters, right? So we see the PHIs now enjoying these benefits. How can we get greater parity across the sector as a whole between private and government? How can the private also enjoy these benefits? Because now wage increase, that 7%, 63,000 healthcare workers enjoyed this wage increase. The Angel scheme, the public sector is enjoying this. How can the private sector catch up? What can they do to stay relevant, to stay competitive?
Well, that's a very good question. So I had the same question when I first joined Healthcare Services Employees Union 3 years ago, because when I look at it, predominantly we are public sector dominated. Yeah. So that's when I have discussions with my executive committee, and we decided that, why don't we give a chance to the private sector as well? And because sometimes these private sectors need the resources as well. In fact, if not more, yeah. So back to the company training committee grant that we have, we thought that it'd be good if we can aggressively market this grant to the private sector as well. So where we are today, we have reached out to private hospitals. We have managed to also get many of the dental clinic chains on board HSEU, some of the general practitioners as well, and some of the other smaller medium enterprises in the healthcare sector space as well. So you ask me, how do we then making sure that they also have the same kind of support as well, is we were actively going out to them and see how they can also tap into our resources in terms of the ITO's expertise, in terms of the grant that we're going to dish out to them as well. So give you an example, we managed to actually get the recognition from one of the biggest dental clinic chains. And today,
this is in the private space?
In the private space, you know. So I actually recently went for a dental checkup, and you know, then they say, hey Steven, your one of the tooth not so good, we have to do some surgery on it as well. So they actually got me into X-ray and say, go and take some X-ray on your mouth. And after they come back down to the clinic, and then they use this intra-oral scanning tools. They just go into my mouth and do a few seconds of scanning, and within the frame of a few, maybe a minute, I can actually see the entire three-dimension visuals of how my mouth and the teeth look like, you know. And then what they did amazingly is they didn't superimpose the X-rays onto that 3D CAD diagram itself.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and then they also use a little bit of artificial intelligence, because when I look into the diagram, which I can actually play it around, I can look at it from the top, from the sides, and from the bottom. I realize there are some red spots here and there as well, and that's when the dentist told me we are actually putting the AI in place. And this will actually tell the dentist, dentist could have visually missed it, but they are highlighting these are the potential issues, or they are giving information to the dentist to say that when you perform the surgery, to keep a lookout for some of these things. It's quite amazing, right? And besides that, they also make use of what I call that instant printing as well. Yeah. So while waiting for some of my what they call it, the crowns to be made, they can actually make a temporary crown for you, almost
through 3D printing.
Through 3D printing, is print on demand. It's amazing. While it may not be as solid as that of the the permanent crown. The permanent crown will have to send to this huge machine, a CNC machine that will be later on as well. But at least temporary, it doesn't look so bad on me. And today, that's why I can do the podcast as well. Yeah, so it's quite amazing that the whole dentistry has also evolved. I was expecting someone to come and put the plasticine onto my mouth and then do the manual. Those were the past.
Correct.
And today they are. I know the dental technicians are actually in needs, because they are the one that operates the CAD/CAM.
Correct.
Yeah, and the CAD/CAM, they can even put in. I was looking at some of the things, the tools that they used. They even have because the implants come from different vendors, right? They can pick and choose which vendors, because the dimensions might be different, and they can just plug and play that implant into that 3D diagram, and then the whole thing will just adjust by itself, giving the dimensions to the dentist before they actually print it as well. It's just so dynamic, and it also minimizes the hassle from a patient. They have to constantly go down, and the accuracy, I think, is something that I think as a patient I'm looking out for. The efficiency in fixing my problem, so I can concentrate on my work. I don't have to go down multiple times as well.
Correct.
So this is amazing, right? Making use of already CAD/CAM, making use of a AI, and at the end of the day, I received a report telling me exactly. I mean, how often you visit a dentist and at the end of it, you walk out of the dental clinic, they give you a full report exactly how your tooth condition, your
oral health
is about as well. So
Amazing, right? This whole transformation.
Just amazing, right? Yeah.
I think one day you don't even need a dentist. Probably the robot is implanting that.
Oh,
teeth
that
for
would
you.
be scary. That would be scary.
Correct.
Yeah.
But then again, then it creates more jobs. For example, you need more technicians to key in codes, key in this and whatnot.
You're absolutely right. So maybe at this moment I'm fearful, but in time to come, it'll be so common that it becomes just a part and parcel of the treatment as well.
Correct. So I think it's important because it's also Labor Day. Is the May month. I think it's also important for workers to stay relevant, to keep on upskilling, right? To adapt to this fast-moving pace. You know, even for us, like in recruitment, wow, the space is changing.
Yeah.
Those were the days where you have to, like, you got 100 CVs coming in, you have to screen. Now you take these 100 CVs, you put it into a system, you put in some qualifying criteria, they rank it for you, who's your top to your bottom, right? And that's why we have to educate job seekers, like, hey, your CV has to be relevant. You need to have the right data into your CV, because the majority of the screening is done through systems now.
Absolutely.
It's no more the person, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's so interesting, like Singapore is going through this whole transformation phase in terms of AI technology, but on a global scale, I still feel that we are still behind, like, the world leaders, right? Like, for example, US, China, they are so advanced in this space, especially in the healthcare. I was watching a documentary about, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Shenzhen Medical Park, where Singapore is one of the greatest. It has a lot of firms that are investing in this technology, and then now they're trying to bring back all this technology into the Singapore hospitals.
That's
right. It's really exciting, I think, being in the healthcare space.
Yes. And we must embrace technology. We must embrace artificial intelligence, because the amount of potential that they can bring to what we are doing is tremendous. So I'm also learning every day, so that as we are presenting, my colleagues were presenting to the management partners, I also learn as well. So I learned about this thing called prompt engineering, right? So as you make use of all these, different AI models and large language models, you must actually the outcome as you pump things into that AI tool itself is really how precise, how specific you are in the prompting of that as well. So they call it prompt engineering. So never rest on your laurels, and I think it's always exciting to learn new things. And that's how we actually continue to make ourselves relevant. And if AI can help us with our job, I hate writing minutes, right? And if the AI can help me
Gemini,
to actually
record and transcribe.
Yeah, transcribe from voice to text, and then if I can actually rearrange the text to the format that I want as well, then that will really makes me a lot more productive in my minute submission as well.
Correct.
Yeah, then I can do more productive things in engaging the stakeholders.
Correct, absolutely. So now that you are engaging the private sector, and the private sector could be private companies like myself, right, who is supporting the healthcare sector. It could be private healthcare providers, like private hospitals, community care providers like home nursing foundations, or private companies. What is stopping them from being part of HSEU?
Whoa, you should ask them that question.
What do you feel is stopping them?
Well, first of all is the awareness. As I mentioned, we actively start to reach out to the private sector some 3 years ago. Yeah, well, my predecessor could have made some efforts in that, but we are now aggressively moving into the private sector. So first of all is the awareness. So the community care space and the social care space is something that HSEU want to be able to bring our value captured to them as well. So I think it's just a process. So the more that we engage, the better they start to understand where the union is coming from, and the better they will be able to take that all into consideration to see whether they can actually partner us in this journey. Let me give you an example as well. Just now you're saying that how HSEU has been value adding to the community care space is, again, last year was the first time that the Ministry of Health has actually published the community care set of recommended salary guidelines. Yeah. So again, this is in consultation with the union. We have been lobbying to have greater transparency when it comes to the community care as well. So we can not always be viewed. The community care sector cannot not be always be viewed as the poorer cousin of the acute hospital setting as well. And in the charity dollars, right, doesn't mean that the staff, the professional staff, needs to be paid the charity dollars, right? They have to be paid professionally,
correct,
and competitively as well, so that you can really bring in the talents to really uplift the entire sector as well. Yeah. So with the publish of that salary wage guidelines is something that the union is really very happy in consultation with the ministry as well. So it becomes transparent, so you can therefore attract potential job seekers into it. While this is not a mandatory salary guidelines, but at least it paved the way. So at least it can give the community care organizations some time to work towards that as well. Mm-hmm. So if the bigger boys are taking the lead, then the rest would then naturally have to follow as well. So but in time to come, with the salary enhancement from the ministry and all this, I really hope that the whole community care sector can be uplifted. So with talents joining the sector, and therefore they are no longer going to be the poorer cousin of the acute hospital setting, and the whole sector will then be uplifted. So whether you're working in the community care organization, the social homes, or the acute hospital setting, they're all healthcare workers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So HSEU will always aspire to be the voice for all healthcare workers, regardless of where you work, acute, in the community, in the private space, whether in the community care or whether you are in a clinic, for some of the specialized clinics and so on and so forth as well.
So, to get it right, if a company is not part of the union,
yep,
the employees can still opt in to be a member of HSEU.
Yeah, they can join us. Any employees with a employer-employee relationship can always join us as union members. Yeah, regardless of whether the company is unionized, lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are the ramifications? I mean, based on your opinion.
Yep.
If I am a private company in the community care sector, yes, I think AIC, NCSS or MSF have come up with guidelines. We also know these guidelines are benchmarks.
That's right.
For industry benchmarks, but they are not mandatory.
Yep.
Are there any compliances that we are trying to do to get them move up?
Certainly. So the first step is the publication of that salary guidelines. So currently we are in talks with the agency, with the blessing of the ministry, to see whether we can do something along the lines of the progressive wage model as well for the outsourced sectors, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not too sure you have heard about the progressive PWM mark.
Correct.
So when a company is actually having that PWM logo, then to the job seeker, this is a company that follows
employer of choice,
and so on and so forth as well. So we are hoping to do same thing for the community care sector as well, so that with that, it might not be called a PWM, it will be called something else. With that, then maybe it will be a little easier for the stakeholders to say that, this is actually a progressive company, not just in terms of the wages, but also in terms of the other things as well, like recruitment practices, it's progressive, and fair employment practices, and so on and so forth as well. And hopefully they are unionized, maybe then again there's a union to look after their employees, and they enjoy a good bipartite or tripartite relationship and so on and so forth, to give that reassurance and something that's very visual, very optic to people that is not working in this organization as yet. Yeah.
Steven, I will give you an example. I mean, I was also advocating for these changes to certain clients in the private healthcare sector. There was this instance that executive director of a particular comcare home came to me and said, Jordash, if you want me to increase my salaries, you want me to adopt this, you want me to adopt that, I am a private company, right? We profits and loss, we are P&L, we don't have much support. Right? And I will run my P&L in red. At the end of the day, for me to survive, I have to transfer costs to the patients. Right? And that is something that I do not want to do, because again, it's a highly competitive market. Patients look at pricing. What would you then advise an executive director like that who feels that her hand is tight? Like, okay, at one side, I want to increase, I want to do better for my workers, but the other side, hey, I also got to be cost sensitive to my customers. If not, I'm going to lose my customers.
I understand.
So how what kind of advice would you tell someone who's in that
with or
predicament?
without the union coming in, the rest of the the competitors will actually be moving forward as well, right? So they are going to make sure that they pay what the ministry has actually released the wages as well. So then how? Yeah, you'll still be caught in that situation, right? If you don't do that as well. So perhaps you should start thinking about, are there certain things that I can actually transform within my current organization so I can do things a little bit more productively as well. So again, the numbers of healthcare workers in Singapore is always there's a limit, right? Yeah, then is that possible that we can actually leverage on technology to actually do some of these mundane, very administrative work, so that again the healthcare workers can move up the value chain as well. So there's no one easy solutions because the competition is there. If the big boys are now moving towards capturing the wages very competitively, and also making their healthcare workers' productivity, you have no choice. So what the union can offer to this particular executive director is that we have the resources. We have the CTC grant that can help you in some of your capex investment, and then we can come in and have the bounce off the ideas with you, how to upskill your workers as well, and so on and so forth as well. The minute you are associated with the union, that's when I have the flexibility to then therefore extend my union resources to you. And the aim game point is the same as your employer. Is for you to do well, do good, so you can do more good and all that.
Correct.
Well.
It has to be a win-win.
It has to be a win-win situation. And the union in Singapore is really quite different because we always think win-win-win. I mean, if you look at the unions from overseas, it's a very easy thing to get emotional, right? Emotional and walking off is the easiest thing to do, right? But then is that naturally the best outcome? The answer is no. Yeah, it's harder to come to solutions, right? How to move forward that's palatable to all stakeholders. Yeah.
Correct.
The easy way out is just just go on strike.
Talking about unions, about overseas unions and Singapore's union model or Singapore's role in tripartism, right? Like, can you just explain to the viewers who are here who do not understand actually what is tripartism and how is Singapore's tripartism model unique compared to other countries, and why does it work so well here? And sometimes you see in another country, people are lobbying in the streets, factories are shut down, they are demanding for wages, shipyards are closed, and that disrupts the whole working economy, right? Yeah. So, like, what's different about Singapore?
Well, tripartism essentially points to the three stakeholders: the government, the union, and the employers, lah. So it's an open secret, that. But it's not easy to emulate because the fundamental thing that holds these three parties together is the trust. It's the trust. And trust, you can't build it overnight. It has to be over a period of time. And trust cannot be just at that top level, right? Not just with the ministers and the CEOs, but it has to cascade through the entire spectrum of the working levels as well. And that takes time. And for us, and that is why we are very careful, even from a union perspective, in driving certain agendas as well, to make sure that it's always something that is palatable, something that is holistic, something that is going to be a win-win-win. If it's always just a union winning, then to me, you might have won the battle, but you might have lost the war in the longer term, right? So I think if you look at the healthcare in particular, everything that we do, the best outcome is achieved through tripartite setup. So whether it's the yearly bonus negotiations, the annual increment negotiations, it is always involving the three parties, right? The clusters, the MOHH is also involved so that they can actually put everything in context as well. And just like I talk about the prevention of abuse and harassment, we are able to be moving so fast is because, again, the three parties are involved, right? And that's where we can actually put the best brain together and come up with the solutions in the quickest time as well. Particularly for healthcare is unique because the involvement of the ministry is very direct and very hands-on.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think that's why it's very important for the tripartite parties to all work together. And sometimes it's very airy-fairy, tripartite. Actually, it's not true. To make tripartism works, we must always deliberately, and I use the word deliberately, create platforms for the tripartite partners to come together and get to know each other as human beings. Yeah, because at the end of the day, the better we get to know the tripartite partners, the better it is for us to be able to understand where they're coming from, whether I can trust that person, and so on and so forth as well. So as far as possible, we don't take tripartism for granted. Yeah. So we must always be very professional. But that doesn't mean that we are always giving in. No lah. At the end of the day, we can always agree to disagree, at least from the union perspective. But then again, the harder part is then how can we come to a common landing whereby the three parties can then move forward with a certain agenda as well. Easier said than done, but I think the best way is to go through that baptism of fire a few times, right? And then you'll be able to see, so far I think the union has been quite fair, sometimes give and take, depending on the circumstances as well. If we continue to just be unilateral, then we, like for example, the wages, if we continue to just keep pushing, regardless of the economy, regardless of the whole world dynamics and all that as well, do you think it's good to in the near term, it might be good for the workers, or they keep enjoying really good salary increments and all that, but they might price themselves out, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and then if the company actually price themselves out and can no longer be competitive in this business, eventually the company has to fall short.
Correct. So striking
what will happen?
A balance, right?
Exactly. So to the union, that's why you're very cognizant that employability is always the best welfare. Yeah, if you continue to stay employable, it's the best thing. So I must help the company to succeed. Then therefore you can continue to get your salaries, your bonus, your annual increment, so that you can actually enjoy some real wage growth despite the inflation.
Correct. And where everyone is contributing, right?
Absolutely.
Everyone is contributing. Stephen, maybe we can talk about, since we are on this area of upskilling also, like how has HSEU, or does HSEU have any platforms for, just say for example, if I'm a healthcare worker and I'm looking to upskill myself, I'm a union member, what can I do to tap onto HSEU for upskilling or for training?
No, come to HSEU. So the foresight of my president is fantastic. So in the year 2018, even before I joined HSEU, they have already set up this healthcare academy, and healthcare academy primarily is driven by the union and supported by NTUC Learning Hub and E2I itself. So for everything that we do in the healthcare is always peppered with healthcare-related case studies, peppered with the contextualizations of healthcare examples, and so on and so forth. So everything, the courses are not generic off the shelf, but it's contextualized for the healthcare setting. And the good thing is that the NTUC Learning Hub has also evolved along the way in partnership with the union. So for instance, when I first came in, they are not part of the training providers with the agency for the community care as well. But with the introduction, they become the learning partner for the agency to benefit the community care organizations. And this year, they've just been awarded the Learning Institute for the community care organizations. So progressively, they are doing more and more into the community care space, because we want to make sure that the workers in the community care sectors also benefit through some of these teachings and learnings from the healthcare academy as well. And just now I talked about also the job redesign for the MOH jobs, MOH redesign jobs, right? Like the patient service associate, the health, the care support associates. So, because the fact is that NTUC Learning Hub is one of the CET center appointed by SSG, and therefore they are able to curate customized courses for the sector and enjoy the SSG funding. So you see the benefits. The courses are WSQ, so it's portable across the 3 clusters. At the same time, they enjoy very good funding from SSG.
Correct. So the employers can tap onto SSG for subsidised.
The outlay to the employers are very minimal.
Correct.
Yeah, and to the workers, I can carry this and it's recognized by either of the clusters that maybe if I want to move around, this is portable. And it's not specific to that clusters, and the other cluster might say might not recognize that, but WSQ is nationally recognized as well. So I think since 2018 we have made a very good progress. So we started off with some very generic courses like mindset change, mental resilience, but we have starting to move deeper into the clinical space, and we have also curate more customized courses. So I talk about the prevention of abuse harassment. So we have already worked on several pilots with one of the clusters in customizing, referencing the framework and the implementation guide in delivering trainings when it comes to abuse harassment, de-escalation,
really
and so
applied
on.
learning.
Applied learning into the one of the clusters to many of the PHIs within it as well. And the foresight, the vision of my president is tremendous. And she's saying that, hey, look, we have many seniors at home. And actually, when we go to work, who look after our seniors? It's our migrant domestic workers, right?
Correct.
So that's when I actually then talk to my colleagues that's handling the Center for Domestic Employees under NTUC. So I see, hey, look, can we actually partner together to see how we can actually train up the migrant domestic workers as well? And again, the Healthcare Academy then curate courses to benefit the migrant domestic workers. And thank God that he's also able to come in with some funding for that pilot. And now we are training many of the migrant domestic workers on 2 half Sundays at just a mere cost of $10. Wow. If their employer is a union member, or if they can come out, the $10 is really just to get the commitment to come for that. And we have trained hundreds of migrant domestic workers on the fundamentals on how to look after the seniors at home.
These are the caregiver training courses.
That's right. Okay. That's right. And this is amazing because the courses are conducted in 5 native languages, not just in English. Yeah, it can be in Tagalog, it can be in Myanmar, it can be in other kind of native languages in a sense. So it's really very relevant, and we're hoping to do more beyond this as well. So another good example would be how the Healthcare Academy has also trained the volunteers. So if you look at the community sector side, they actually rely on a lot of volunteers as well.
Correct.
Yeah, so we are also into the volunteers training as well, and we have a 5 full day on the training, really gearing up the volunteer up to speed within the 5-day kind of courses. Dementia, we are also into that as well, training how to recognize patients that are demented and how to better look after them as well.
Are there any popular courses that you observe Singaporean nurses taking up from the academy?
Yes, predominantly because there's a lot of the changes. The change management is one that is heavily subscribed by many of the hospitals. As I talk about the job redesign role, so we actually make it compulsory because with all these changes, it's important that the different stakeholders understand where everybody is coming from. So the buy-in is critical. So change management is very important. Mental resilience, mental well-being as well. All these are very popular courses. And on top of that, moving into other courses would be even cybersecurity, data protection, data management, and so on and so forth as well.
Correct, because you can't run away from these topics,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
And the good thing about NTUC Learning Hub through Healthcare Academy is that they are very strong in the the other generic courses. So for example, they are particularly strong in workplace safety and health. They are very strong in IT. So artificial intelligence they are very deep dive into that as well. If you're talking about sustainability, right, it's also very critical as well. So Healthcare Academy, we basically do all these three things as well. So last year we had a breakthrough with one of the cluster. We in a memorandum of understanding, and we say that we want to deep dive into all of this. So as we speak, we have deep dive into, we have really curated 2 courses on artificial intelligence. We call it AI 101, AI 201 as well, is to make sure it's asynchronous learning. So we're expecting at least that cluster that we ink the MOU for all the healthcare workers, regardless of your profession, to embrace and appreciate artificial intelligence. We are also moving into sustainability. Why sustainability, you might ask? Because every professions in the healthcare now, you have to think sustainability as well, because climate is changing. And you have to be very cognizant of everything that you do has an impact on the climate.
Correct.
Whether you're a nurse, whether you're a doctor, and so on and so forth as well. Understood that if you're working in the operating theatre, certain gas that you use to put people to sleep can be very environmentally damaging to the and so maybe you can have a substitute, a replacement, but still serve the purpose of putting people to sleep, and it cut across all profession as well. And what in HSEU we have piloted is we have curated this course called environmental steward course, because we want all our branch officials, our union leaders, to think and embrace sustainability as well. So we kickstarted that last year, and we are going to do it more and more. But this thing has evolved as well in partnership with Learning Hub. So we are also partnering the clusters to see how we can permeate it to not just my union leaders, because I only have 300 union leaders. But how many thousands of healthcare workers you have out there as well? We want to permeate to every healthcare worker so that together we don't just heal the patients, but we also heal the earth as well.
Because it's like, I think you could probably implement some like compulsory electives like in school, right? Like you have to go through. And at one point of time I was thinking also, like while I was serving NS, or while I'm going through my reservists, we are required to do our BCLS, our basic cardiac life saving, right? Every 2 years. A question hit me, like why are not all Singaporeans trained in this skill? Because absolutely. Everyone can be a hero when something happens. It's a day-to-day thing, right? And another thing was I was thinking, so like every car should have a first aid kit, right? I mean, these are all important things that everyone should have access to. Every car should have access to.
And an extinguisher as well.
Yeah, and an extinguisher as well, right? So I think again, like if all healthcare workers can have that base training, like compulsory elective, and I think the widest way to adopt this is in their schools. But because we have a mixture of local candidates from our local systems and foreign candidates from foreign systems. So then how do you create this part of skill set across everyone who's both local and foreign trained, right? And I think then HSEU is able to then now lobby for this.
So you can see that the union, we actually are the advocates for many different agendas as well, and sustainability is something that's very close to my heart at the end of the day. So there's so many things that every day you wake up, there's so many things to do. Steven, so that's what keeps me going.
Let's talk about some fun facts and myths about the union. What are the common myths from the various stakeholders? So let's talk about the employees. Employees. Like, what are the common myths that they come to you and they think that, okay, being a union member, I get all these benefits, or the union can do this for me. So what is a common misconception for employees?
The most common one will be, I don't need to join because I can write on others. Because union approach is always collective. So for example, if our collective agreement, even I don't join union member, as a union member, I still get to enjoy the same benefit as well. But the problem is that if everybody think this way, union sometimes is also in strength as well. And why I've never taken it for once granted that why would an employer like yourself sit down with me and negotiate on behalf of your employees if today I only represent 1% of the entire workforce, right? So if the cluster will be asking the same question, right? But today we are in a very healthy range. We represent a very significant numbers of healthcare workers. And
how many members now are on
we
HSEU?
are almost hitting 50,000.
50,000.
Yeah, and
Wow.
if you look at and they're predominantly from the public sector. If I look at the public sector, probably hovering around 80,000. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, so that's quite significant.
Correct.
If I take away some of the private sector, it's still a good a percentage. So as an employer, I'll be very cognizant that I better sit down and talk to HSEU before I roll out any of the policy changes, because they actually means business as well. And the good thing is that if I'm a progressive employer, I'll take that to my advantage, right? So I give you an example how we actually works together with the MOH and the 3 clusters was when we actually wanted to, as we are still crafting the framework and the implementation guide, the union actually volunteered to say that, hey, look, if you need to bounce off some of these ideas that you have before it's actually concretized, with the unions, we can arrange all these evening sessions for you to have a direct face-to-face with the healthcare, and no host bar. We can give you the most direct and honest opinion. And we did that. We mobilized us. The union strength is in mobilization. We mobilize.
So you get some ground sensing before any
You hear it,
implementation.
as I said, no sugarcoating. You tell it exactly how they feel as a healthcare workers who has been abused, and you hear it face on. And as you craft out your policies subsequently, then it is be very well accepted by the ground. You don't do it at your ivory tower, right?
Correct.
You have done it because you have consulted the ground.
Correct. You're getting the
And
consensus
this
from the
is
people.
very valuable, yeah. So to answer your question, membership is, so every day I'm selling. You ask me a typical day, I'm selling either grants or I'm selling to make sure that, Joe Dash, please join us as a union member as well, because you get to enjoy not just the workplace benefit, but also all the social benefits as well.
Correct. And what would be common misconception from the employer stakeholders about being a union member or being unionized?
Okay, so there are actually 2 levels, right? One is for the company. If they give a recognition to the union, that means I have the right to then sit down with the employer and talk about some of these matters. The other one is, of course, even after the company gives the recognition, we believe in freedom of associations. And at the end of the day, I sell my koyok, and then if you see that, hey, this really applies to me, then you sign up as a union member. So company level and individual level as well. So it depends, yeah. So at the end of the day, to the employer, if they always think in a very defensive manner, they will say, I don't like Steven to poke into my day-to-day affairs. Yeah. But actually, as I was just chatting with you before this podcast itself, I say, for the public sector, it actually took us a good 35 years or more to reach to where we are today. And that collective agreement, that booklet is a very powerful booklet, right? Because it is the essence of the hard negotiations over the last 35 years or more. Yeah, we started off AUP and all that, so it's more than 35 years. Actually, it's tremendous, right? But do I expect this to happen to the private sector immediately, the same kind of influence? Probably not. As I said, tripartism is all about relationship building.
Correct.
It takes time for the private sector to get to know HSU better. Yeah, and then we can always work towards. Anyway, you can't start a collective agreement unilaterally, right? It needs to have the blessing of the employer as well. And it's always good to start on a good footing with mutual understanding. And also, my job is to also convince the employers to see that actually collective agreement is not a bad thing. It kind of also protect your interest in the sense, because everything is already agreed upon and it's black and white. It also help you to safeguard the ambiguity as well.
Correct.
And if everything is there, then you can always look upon the union as additional resources, because we are ground people, and we say the same thing as the employer will tend to lean towards the union, because we have seen many cases and we're very experienced in dealing with all these industrial relations matters every day, right? whether you're talking about company restructuring, whether you're talking about grievances, you're talking about a committee of inquiry, and so on and so forth as well. We are here to make sure that you do things properly and doesn't contravene the law. And for all you know, the law is also moving so fast. The legislation is changing every other day as well. Employment Act, I heard, is also undergoing review, and also the terminology like workman versus non-workman seems very archaic. Maybe it's time to start reviewing this. And the overtime payment at 2006 and 2005, is it still relevant in today's context as our median wages goes up? And more and more smaller families and different life stages, you need different kind of flexibility. So that's where the guidelines on the flexible work arrangement request, right, comes about as well. And then now you have the workfare. Used to be workfare legislation, but it's now an act already. A workforce against discrimination is already enacted. And you see, I mean, there's so many changes here. So if you are small, medium enterprises, and you're the boss that does the business development, the sales, the HR, and all this, seriously, there's only so much time you can do as well. Why don't you leverage on the union?
Correct. The smaller you are, the more partnerships you need.
Exactly. So I eat, live, breathe all this. I'll be in a better position to advise you and value add to you so that you don't get penalized if you work. And nowadays, I mean, Singapore is such a pro-employer and employee as well, right? Because there's so many channels and avenues that the aggrieved employee can turn to, right? You can always walk into an MPS, meet the member of parliament, or they can walk into TADEM, the Tripartite Alliance for Dispute Management. They can walk into TAFEP as well.
Correct.
Yeah, and it actually it's better that you work with the union, because everything will be resolved at the lowest level within the company, so that it doesn't attract publicity. Because any form of a not so good publicity is
detrimental for
the reputation. I mean, just take so many cases recently when they didn't retrench the workers responsibly, right? And NTUC and the union will never hesitate to take the errant employer to task. Yeah.
Correct. So I think at the end of the day, we are all doing this to uplift the healthcare sector.
Absolutely.
And uplifting the healthcare sector means transferring these benefits to better patient care.
Yes.
Right? And we are all having these different vehicles. And I think the union now basically is like one big party bus.
Yes.
Hey, we are driving to that destination. Why don't you all come on board?
That's right.
And work together, and let's go to the final destination together.
Actually, the destination is the same. It's the same.
It's the same.
Whether it's your employee or my union members, we want the best for them.
Correct.
In the best interest. Yeah.
So the last part of this podcast, I think I want to tap into your aspirations and what do you see HSEU in the future. So maybe the first question is, if you could make one change in Singapore's healthcare system to improve the life of healthcare workers, what would it be?
In our annual dialogue with the minister, I actually told him that I really like his clarity of his thoughts. So I attended the annual work plan, and two things that really struck me, especially the first year when I joined, was the move towards preventive health, and as well as precision medicine. These two policy shift is really something that I think is certainly in the right direction. I'm an engineer, right? So
and then your eyes light up when you talk about CNC and process manufacturing,
structural engineer. So we are always talking about instead of reactive maintenance, we are always looking at preventive maintenance. But with the advancement of technology, we are looking into predictive maintenance as well. So before you even break down, I can predict that you will break down within 3 years, that kind of stuff as well. Same thing for the body, right? If I can actually make use of the precision medicine and genetics, and genetics editing and all this as well, and actually have your diagnosis early, so that interventions can actually be taken upfront earlier to prevent the situation from happening as well. But all this, I think, is sensitive. it's very sensitive because insurance, it might affect your premiums and so on and so forth as well. But if we handle it carefully, this can become a very strong thing, right? To prevent anything from worsening, or if you can't do anything about it, but maybe some early interventions can help as well. So precision medicine is something that I'm very interested in. I've been also managed to get some of these companies on board HSEU as well, and that gives me a good sensing as to how this whole thing is moving as well.
Correct.
Yeah. Then of course the other one is preventive health lah. Healthier actually is certainly the right medicine, seriously. I mean, you can't build enough hospitals. Even you can build enough hospitals. We're already spending 30 billion in 2 3. How many more hospitals you want? Even you can build enough hospitals, who is going to manage the hospitals, right? We need manpower as well, which is very, very scarce nowadays as well. So ever since I came into HSEU, I have also become very health conscious. Yeah, I start to watch what I eat, and I open the fridge. I hope to see carrot sticks and cucumber sticks instead of the usuals as well. And it's certainly in the right direction. I signed up my GP as my primary care and all this as well. And with the capitation model, it's certainly in the right direction. We are moving into the community as well. So not just community in terms of nursing home, comm halls, but more important is also home care.
Correct. Care at home.
Care at home. And you don't have to build any more infrastructure. Home might be the best place that if you can make certain tweaks to your home, then you can be quite well looked after with a mobile team as well.
Correct. So I just attended Aging Asia last week.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. Like, majority of the vendors were about home monitoring systems and alarms and all the peripherals for the home.
Yeah.
Right? So it just gives me a very clear direction that home health or home care is the next big thing, because
absolutely
we are land scarce, right? And we have got HDBs and again, I think this model wasn't a new model. It was just that, I mean, I was speaking to a nursing leader. We said like 20, 30 years ago was all in the planning, but we were just not ready. Now we are.
Correct.
Now we are.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct.
What would be your aspirations for HSEU? Let's talk about the next 3 to 5 years. Like, what would you want? I mean, we talk about the private sector, right? Acquiring the private sector to be more to come in and join HSEU. Is that something that you aspire HSEU?
Yeah. I mean, ballpark. I think the private sector probably hovers around another 50 to 60,000. And I think that's a huge potential. It's a huge greenfield for HSEU. If we really want to pride ourselves as one healthcare advocacy, then I think that's a huge potential. I think 100% of the public sector is really unionized, with MOH coming on board, that just came on board. So I think we have to really give the benefit to the other private healthcare workers as well. You asked me what is my aspiration for HSEU over the next few years. Really is also about leadership succession as well. So, in the union structure, there are two groups of people. They are the elected leaders, and they are also the staff. So I belong to the staff category. I always joke with the leaders that I'm a service provider. What kind of service I provide? I provide industrial relations service. So they procure my service, right? So they are actually truly the owners of the union, because they are healthcare workers themselves. So I'm merely helping them to do the day-to-day running. So I take guidance from them, and every month we have a so-called, I always show it's board of directors meeting, is my executive committee meetings where we table issues for their approval, seek their directions on certain agendas, and have some robust discussion. So leadership succession is very important, because these are all volunteers. We pay them peanuts actually. Yeah. So out of their volunteerism, they are doing this in the betterment, in the hope of the betterment of the entire health, all the healthcare workers as well. But to attract the younger generations to really see that purpose and all that is getting not that easy. Yeah, and if you look at my president, she devoted entire time. Building, yes. I mean, not just her, but all the executive committee, devoting a lot of their time and energy on top of their full-time work and whatever other appointments that they have into building to where HSEU is today. So I never take that for granted, but I think moving forward, can we just rely on one person with the kind of passion, vision, and so on and so forth as well? Or perhaps it would be better if we can also rely on the collective efforts from a few more union leaders per se as well, because I think sometimes the shoe is too big to be filled by just one individual. Perhaps it's really good to split the job so that everyone can actually collectively at least reach the standard of our current president itself. Yeah. So it's a process, and again, it's something that always has to be deliberate. You have to give the chance to be for the potentials to be mentor, to be coached, to be put into action, to network with the management partner so they know who is this person. And again, you have to try them out as well, whether they can really front the negotiations. And all this has to be done before the current batch of experienced union leaders retire. Yeah, so I think that to me will be very pressing to build the next generation, or you call it the 5G,
correct,
of the union leaders for HSEU.
Because even for yourself, you've got 22 years of experience under your belt.
Yeah,
you need to pass it on.
Yeah, but
right?
I'm transient in the sense, so that's why I'm very aware that I'm a staff. My job is to support the union leaders. Yeah, because my boss can just post me to another union another day. Yeah, but within my stay, I'll make sure that I do my very best to make sure that all the things that needs to be institutionalized will be done so. Yeah.
Stephen, what was this tagline that I saw on your website? Oh, you always tell me this. I think is it a union of healthcare employees for healthcare employees by healthcare employees?
Oh, that's actually our vision, right?
Is it your vision?
A choice employer, a choice union for healthcare workers by the healthcare workers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he hits it on the nail, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For our viewers and our listeners who are healthcare employees, and you all are not part of HSEU and you are interested to join HSEU, Stephen, what would be your message to them?
Before I go to that, I'll just go back to my vision statement again. Be the choice union. Again, I don't take a lot of things for granted, because if you were to trace back to history, in the year 1963, there was a huge struggle between several unions trying to represent the healthcare workers. SMSU, the Singapore Medical Services Union, was fighting with AUP to represent the nurses. Yeah, so you can see that the union must also be constantly in touch with the ground and making ourselves relevant and value adding to the employers, to the union members as well. So we hope that we are constantly keeping ourselves on the toes to provide that value add. So for those that really see the value in joining healthcare services employees union, you can actually follow our Facebook, you can follow our LinkedIn. That's where I think now we post many of our actions, so to speak, events, happenings onto the social media to constantly let you know what we are doing as well. And you think that we are value adding, we really hope that you can join us. And how to join? Very simple. Just log on to hseu.org.sg, look at the membership icon, just click on it, and there you go. So you can join us through credit card, you can join us through a gyro system, and the good thing is that if you join us today, you get someone to refer you, the referral will actually get $30. And you yourself who join as a union member will get $20 e-voucher, e-NTUC Fair Price voucher as well. Link points, sorry, for that matter. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I think we've come to our final part of the podcast. Brother Steven, thank you so much for joining us today. Your insights into the role of HSEU and the initiatives supporting our healthcare professionals have been truly eye-opening and inspiring. It's clear that the work being done behind the scenes is just as vital to what's happening in the front lines, right? I think you all play a big part in it. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope today's episode gave you a deeper appreciation for the people who power our healthcare system. If you found this value in this conversation, don't forget to follow, share, and stay connected with us for more stories that matter. Until the next time, stay safe, stay inspired, keep unraveling what drives healthcare forward. Thank you, Steven.
Thank you for the opportunity, Jodesh. Yeah.